Good morning and welcome to this week. Speaking of gas, it's a weekly look, or in the summertime, sort of a weekly look at what matters to you, the owners of oil and gas rights in Pennsylvania. This webcast is recorded and can be viewed on the YouTube channel. And I know I'm a couple of recordings behind on getting that up, but that's on my to-do list to do. So soon you'll be able to view all of them if you want to go back. This week, I'm going to talk about a couple of wells, and particularly looking at the initial production numbers from those wells, and also going to talk about an important date that is set and coming up. So the first well that I'm going to talk about today is the Indian Foot 102HC in Bradford County. And let's see, that one's in Monroe Township. And then I'm also going to talk about the Ron Mary well, just for a comparison, in Sullivan County in Elkland Township. And I'll pull up the map and just give you an idea where these are, if I can easily pick them out again. So the first well I mentioned is right here, and it is, it doesn't look like I have a big mouse, but it's right on the border of Albany Township and Monroe Township in the southwest corner of Bradford County. And what you notice about that well is that, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Okay, that went away. What you notice about that well is it sits on actually what would appear to be private mineral owner's land, and then it goes, this particular well that we're looking at actually goes under the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania acreage. Now, just because it's Commonwealth of Pennsylvania acreage doesn't mean that it's not owned by individuals, and I didn't look that up to see. There are some state maps that will show you that, whether the state owns those oil and gas rights or not, but that's the location of that one. And then the other well, let's see if I can make okay, the other well sits here right on the edge of Bradford County and Sullivan County, and that's the Ron Mary well. And I'll also point out some errors, it appears, on some reports that were filed as far as location. It actually is on the border of Overton. Wait a minute, that's not Overton. Let's see what township that is in Bradford County. Yeah, Overton Township in Bradford County, and Elkland Township in Sullivan County. But as I'll show you, there's a mistake on there. It's nowhere as near Auburn Township, Susquehanna County. So those are the location of those two wells. What brings us to the Indian Foot well today is the completion report that was filed recently on that well, and it had an interesting number. And that well is the Indian, like I said, Indian Foot 102HC. And when you look at, I need to turn that off. Everyone can see your annotations, clear all. And we'll stop annotating. Okay, so this is the completion report that was filed. You have the well information up here, the number that, the API number that denotes the well, the municipality and county, Monroe Township, Bradford County. And then under the stimulation and production information, the 24-hour open flow rate is 93,452 MCF in 24 hours. And that is a significant number. And then, of course, it shows the pressure on the well. And I'm not going to profess to be an expert at those things, but that is a very large number. And we'll compare that to another well and production data. Another thing to note on this completion report, and, you know, talking about these reports is also information for you. I mean, I look at lots of wells all over, so I'm not looking at all the information on this well. I pulled up some pertinent information that would kind of help you understand what some of these things mean. But if you are involved in a particular well, there's a lot of information that you can look at as it's filed and maybe make some assumptions about the well. And in this case, this page of the completion report is the stimulation record. So you need to pull this off in a PDF, and then you need to zoom in on it because it's really filed in a very condensed form and is very hard to read on its own. But what this shows is that this well was fracked in 88 stages. And I know I've talked about this before, how things have progressed with technology in these wells, you know, going back to wells that, you know, had 4 perforation stages. The laterals were 4,000 feet long or less sometimes. And how that has changed dramatically from, let's say, 2008 to the present time. And so this is all the completion report that was recently filed. And, you know, we have a member that pulls different ones off and puts them on our Facebook page. And this happened to be one. I didn't catch it, they did. And it did show this outstanding number. Now, a few years ago, there was a well in Sullivan County that had reported 115,694 MCF in 24 hours. And when the actual monthly production reports came in, the first one, it was actually produced at 39 million a day, not at about a third of what was reported as that initial production. So, and to be clear, all that initial production means that they flowed the well, and in 24 hours, in some 24-hour period, this is what it made. It doesn't mean anything about what it can sustain. It doesn't mean that they're going to produce it at that, certainly. There's a lot of things that come to play in there. But on the report, it gives you an indication of what kind of well it is. So going to the next report that I pulled up regarding that well, we'll just take a look at the location plat and see. Let's see, that was this one. I should label these better. Completion report, location plat. Hope I opened that one. No, that's not it. Okay. Maybe I didn't open that. Bear with me a moment. There it is. Okay. Now I can share it. Okay. This is a location plat for that particular well. And I showed you on the map how this was on the edge of it's actually I believe, state forest, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It doesn't say Game Commission. So state forest. And here, this is the location plat. I would call this an okay filing of a location plat. Sometimes, and let's see, this was a Chesapeake well, and a lot of times they do have all the pertinent information in here. You'll see parcel numbers, and it makes it very easy to see exactly whose property this affects. However, because it is an actual plat, shows all the parcel numbers, it is pretty easy to match this up against your property information and see where you are in relation to this. But as you look, hone in on or zoom in on this, you can see that it's a 13,005 foot lateral. And here's your top hole that's on, it appears to be on a private property. And then almost all of the lateral is on this Commonwealth property. So most of the production is going to come from there. So commenting on that, that's something that people need to really be aware of with their leases, that they don't end up being just a place, a landing point for drilling a well for which they'll receive very little royalties. In fact, if you look, the well pad is on what appears to be private property, and the kickoff point and the landing point in the formation is in the state land, and all but it appears, and I didn't look this up, it appears all but maybe this little corner is Commonwealth. So that's an important consideration for landowners when wells are sited. Now, of course, if they do complete development and drill in the other direction, then this landowner would hopefully share in that, and that situation could turn. So again, let's see. Well, actually, the other property that crosses, as you can see, is the Towanda Water Company. They did put that information in there for that one property. And so the rest of it is all Commonwealth. And again, on the location plat, this shows the proposed trajectory of the well. And yeah. So that's the well that, shows that great 24-hour flow. And so what we'll wait to see is what that looks like when the production report comes out, and at what rate they actually produce it. And I've said this in the past, of course, what's reported to the state is what they produced. And what does that number mean? It means that that's how much the company chose to flow into the pipeline. And so whether it's constrained by whether they're holding it back because of market prices, because of pipeline capacity, if it's what it'll produce, those are things we don't know. Okay, so to compare it, for those of you that saw last week's, or my last Speaking of Gas presentation, I showed the top 31 wells that come out on the production report on the 15th. And the top well in the state for that month was the Ron Mary 5HC, a Chesapeake well, Sullivan County, Elkland Township. And that well produced 53 million cubic feet a day in 26 days in May of this year. So we're going to take a look now and see what the completion report for comparison looked like on that well. And so the Ron Mary completion report Okay, so first off, this is interesting because there's incorrect information on here. And okay, come on. I don't know why that's doing that. Okay. It says that it's in Auburn Township, and then I typed this in. It's actually in Elkland. It says Susquehanna County. It's in Sullivan County. And on the API number, the 37 represents Pennsylvania. The 113 is the number for Sullivan County. And then the 20462 is the identifying number for the Ron Mary well. But this other information is incorrect and hasn't been corrected. It's still up there. But for comparison, the 24-hour flow that was reported on this well was 55 million. Now, the production that was reported was 53. So they flowed it close to what this number was. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's that there's going to be that same correlation on the Indian foot well, but that will remain to be seen. And again, the well pressure is there, and this one was about 400 psi under the Indian foot well. Now, what I found interesting on this well, when you looked at the tiny print, blew it up, this was a 12,000 foot lateral. So this lateral was almost identical to the other one in length, but this was fracked in 121 stages. And so I guess the only way you can draw any conclusions, and I'm not drawing conclusions here today, giving you information to look at, information that can give you some indication about what a well might do, and maybe look at trends. But, you know, the only way you're really going to draw any conclusions about it, if at all, is to look as this produces over time, how this works out. So I thought the 121 frac stages was very interesting on that one. And I also have the location plat for that well. And okay, this one, same company, but it just looks a little different. Okay, they did it in color. They put a little more information on this one, interestingly. Let me check and make sure I was right on something on that. Yeah, these are both Chesapeake wells. Just want to make sure I was correct on that. Yes. So this location plat looks a little differently, and it may have been a difference in where I pulled it from as far as the color is all. I subscribe to a service called Edwin where I can pull up historical records as well as these current ones. The current ones you can also find generally by going through the DEP map, and that's where you'll get these colored versions of them. But when you look at, let's see, this one, as I said, was drilled very near the county line, and this one actually goes to the south and have a lot more information. Of course, there's a lot more, I'll also say this, a lot more private landowners affected with this one than the other map. So maybe the lack of information wasn't as critical. Because we're only, as far as royalties on the other one, it appears may only be dealing with a couple of properties. And it may be interesting later to actually take a look and see what the unit declarations look like for these wells. So the completion report on this one just worked out that, you know, it came in, it said 55 million a day was that 24-hour flow rate. And then it was on the top of the production report for May at 53 million, and it was also a higher number than we have been seeing. So Chesapeake certainly drilling some very interesting, high producing wells as of late. They've been in the news. Chesapeake's been in the news on a lot of things. As far as I know, the Southwestern merger isn't final. When and if that happens, then Chesapeake, or whatever the new company is called, they're going to rename it, would be the largest producer of natural gas in the country, I believe, if I have that right. And you know, they do seem to do a bang up job on getting the gas out of the ground. So the other thing I'll talk about, and I don't want to go long, but a member submitted a report on, I mentioned our Facebook page, and they put things up from time to time, just some interesting information. And right after the production report came out, they produced this. And so when I try to zoom in on this, oh, there we go. Okay. This is a comparison report of production for the month of May in 2023 and 2024. And then the calculation that he made was how much gas was produced from each of those counties. What counties are producing the most gas? And we have 15 counties. Total gas produced in Pennsylvania is, let's see, this was the report for, let's see, that number doesn't exactly match their total gas. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Total gas in the state was 585,000, and the gas produced in these 15 counties was 573,000. So 97% of the gas was produced in these counties. And ranking in order, it's Susquehanna County is first, Bradford County second, Washington third, Greene fourth, Lycoming fifth, and Tioga sixth. And Tioga County came in at 6.29%, and then we go down from there. Very strong numbers coming out of these counties. Wyoming County came in with 3.79%, or excuse me, 3.31%, but boy, we see some outstanding wells coming out of that area. The total wells in Pennsylvania are 11,142 as of this report, and these 15 counties have 10,000 of them. So we have a few counties over this producing area that are producing a tremendous amount of gas, and this gas rivals that of Texas. I think we are still behind Texas. I don't think we're number one. I think we're number two. And then there's also a report over there to the right of the number of wells in those county. And actually that was down by a couple hundred, or 100, down by a little over 100 wells. Let's see. Yeah, for whatever reason. So it must be that whether there's some that were shut in, those are numbers that I didn't check. So I just thought that was interesting to see. We're getting, you know, I always say it's the good news and the bad news. We have a lot of wells drilled. We have extremely high production in these newer wells. And that's the good news, and that's also the bad news. If you're waiting to get a well drilled, it's like how fast can they develop new pads when we don't have quite enough place to put all the gas? It's a very complicated market that they're dealing with. We have constraints on pipeline capacity, but it's evolving every day. It changes with the weather. It changes with political issues. It changes with, and when I say weather, weather catastrophes also can change what's happening on that front. So I'm not drawing any conclusions. I thought it was interesting to look at those wells today that are showing some outstanding production coming on, and we'll see what happens with those as we move forward. So I mentioned that we've got to save the date. And this is the earliest that the Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Alliance has ever set the date for their annual meeting. And we will have that April 27th through 29th. It's a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in 2025. It's going to be at the Wyndham Garden in Boalsburg, which is right near State College. We're in the same area, different hotel. And so we have lots of time to plan, to get great speakers. We always come up with a slate of speakers that are engaging, interesting, and cover new topics, new information about old topics. No one ever goes to those conferences and says it was a waste of their time. And then also we're getting ready to set up a robust fall slate of coffee shop meetings. And so I just want to tell you the best way to find out about those is to become a member. So go online, pogla.org, and sign up to become a member. And that way you'll get notice of all the meetings when they're available. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you found that a little bit interesting. And the same link will work every Thursday at 9. The webcasts are on YouTube, and I will catch that up. And tune in for new topics each week. And always, if you have a suggestion about something you'd like to see me talk about, I am open to that. And consider joining the Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Alliance. I'll also take a look and see if anyone has any questions. In the beginning, I did put up a slide that shows how to ask questions. And typically the questions come in to me after the meetings. So I don't see any questions there. So I'm going to sign off and thank you everyone for tuning in.